Good evening. It is November 21st, 2011. You're looking at the do's and don'ts of parenting. I'm your host, Dr. Peter K.B. St. Jean. Joining us today is our guest, Antonio Lopez, that I've had the pleasure of knowing for the last year and a half. Tonight we're talking about a very important issue, as we usually do throughout the show. But we know that we talk about the do's and don'ts of parenting, and sometimes we think about parents only as biological parents. Very seldom, at least on this show, that we discuss issues of parenting beyond the biological parents and adoptive parents. Tonight we'll be speaking about a particular aspect of parenting, or pseudo-parenting as some of you may think of it, mentoring. And we are speaking to our guests, and we'll be talking about mentoring our youth. In particular, we mentor young boys at St. Charles Correctional Facility here in St. Charles, Illinois. So, Antonio Lopez, thank you so much for joining us, brother.
It's good to be here this evening with you, Dr. St. John.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, definitely. I'm from Chicago. I was actually born in Gary, Indiana. My parents moved from New Mexico to work in the steel industry there in the late 1970s. Of course, that industry, went through some hard times, a lot of layoffs, and my folks moved the family to Chicago. I was raised in the city on the northwest side in Logan Square and Humboldt Park area of the city. And we were talking earlier about how I actually was a decent enough student to get into Whitney Young High School, but as a lot of young people do in the city, they get into trouble and get into things. So I was unable to make it through Whitney Young, and was sent to live with my sister in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Back, they send Latinos back to live with their family too. I come across a lot of black brothers and sisters who talk about how they used to send their kids back down south. And I think it's the same process. We have a lot of similarities. And so I was fortunate enough to have the resources. Some of our young brothers and sisters don't even have the resources to get out of their neighborhoods and live with family, but I was able to go live with my sister and begin to piece together my life a little bit. And through those experiences, I think I understand fairly well some of the challenges that our young brothers and sisters deal with, and what it takes to try to get an education and to try to develop oneself in the world. I have been fortunate enough to make it through graduate school, and I'm actually currently finishing a PhD program at the University of Texas at El Paso, and I'm writing a dissertation. I've come back home and writing about some of the black, brown, and poor white unity during the late 1960s with the Black Panther Party, the Young Lords, and the Young Patriots who were trying to change society through grassroots activism. So I'm very fortunate, and I'm very happy to be with you here this evening.
The soon-to-be Dr. Lopez, Dr. Antonio Lopez.
We're working on it.
Remember, when you become a doctor, brother, it's also always keep it humble, stay being a doctor of the hood and beyond the hood, but make sure that the people who need you the most are able to be accessible to you, because a lot of us, we don't go back enough to the community. I mean, we can't say that we're not afraid of gunshots. I mean, of course, we got to be concerned about our safety, but we have to reach back to those who really need the help. Do we have a caller already? Oh, I thought this was a caller over there. Again, this is a live talk show. We are a live show. We are at 312-738-1060, and you can feel free to call in. We are talking tonight about mentoring. Antonio, it's been about 18 months that we've been going to St. Charles. You've been an active participant. We want to thank Elder Yusini Perkins, from whom the idea came, working with Dr. Georgie Smith, who provided a lot of the support for us, and the St. Leonard's House Ministry that helped us with our initial trips there. Remember when we had the bus that we went up with, they would help us out with the buses to get up there. And we have Glenn, we have other brothers, Dr. Edwards, and some have been with us and some have been out. But in a group of us, about 10 of us, go up there. But from your own point of view, tell the viewers why we are involved in this type of mentoring, and what your experience has been so far.
Yeah, it's really been a profound experience for me personally. I think for everybody that's been involved. One of the things is that all of us share the same concerns, and that has to do with the incarceration of our young people, particularly black youth and Latino youth who are simply continue to be incarcerated at rates beyond what they are in the demographics. And so we're concerned about what that does to our communities. We're concerned about the talent that's wasted. We're concerned about their treatment in the facilities. And so I think from those common concerns, we responded to Elder Perkins, who has spent literally decades doing this kind of work.
Half a century.
Yeah, I mean literally that long doing this kind of work, and has a knowledge of the system and the way it's beyond what I could even imagine. But so I think it's from that sense of humanity that we want to do something for our young people. That there's many of us are pretty highly qualified men in terms of our education, whether it's in universities or whether it's in community organizations, churches. And we came together in April of 2010 and began to think about how we can be committed and make a commitment to the young people, and to really to come together. And I think as we started to go out there and talk to one another and meet with the young people, we found that it was a really profound experience that benefited the young people, but also benefited ourselves. And we've continued to be very consistent in going out there. So I'm very fortunate to participate with the other brothers.
And isn't it amazing that when you go out there and you try to help people, you sometimes find that the people are probably helping you even more than
That's right.
You're really helping them. Because I just remember the first trip that we went out there, man, and we were on a bus with and sorry I don't have any overheads to share with you guys the pictures of the group doing that, but we were out there anticipating what these young boys were going to talk about, how they were going to receive us. And then we got there and we got back, and it seemed that we were talking about more of what we learned,
right,
more than probably what we had to give, because the young boys really taught us a lot. I mean, one of the things that really stood out to all of us was at the end when we said, let's give some praises to whoever we belong to, God, God or whomever, that one of the boys stood up and just said such an eloquent prayer. Everybody really responded to that, and just the way that they were discussing the types of things that they were discussing with us. But tell me, do we have a call? Caller, thanks for your patience.
Hi, I was listening to some of the things your guest was saying. I just want to food for thought. If you listen to a lot of these youth these days, they feel as though that our society is not investing at all into it. If you look at some of these schools that have been built in the last 15 or 20 years, some of the schools, like in the front of the school, they look like a police station, or like a courthouse. And then these children are saying, "Are you serious? Are you expecting me to go up in these places and to learn? And you folks not willing to invest in me? And you already saying you're sending me from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse?" Because I'm serious. Because a lot of these schools that have been built in the last 15 years or 20 years look like the front of a police station or like a courthouse.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because before we came in here, Antonio Lopez was explaining to me about his high school experience after I'm getting out of Whitney Young. And I don't want any of the Whitney Young alum to think that they're getting special privilege here, because my last guest was a graduate from Whitney Young, and now you are half graduate from Whitney Young. And maybe the next guest will, but we probably should just find another Whitney Young person just to have a hat trick, right? But greatness comes from many different places, and Whitney Young is a great place to start. But tell the viewers, what type of understanding do you get from the young boys' experience with parenting, based on what they tell us? And I remember the first time we asked them, how many of you lived with your father or did not live with your father, and what you believe, what impact you think that had on your life. Tell the viewers what you understand from their experience with parenting.
Yeah, well, I think it became immediately apparent that that the issue of parenting is really up in front, one of the most important issues that they deal with as young people, and so it became really apparent in talking with them that many of them had either lacked both a father and a mother, or that their fathers were incarcerated, or that their fathers were also, or one of their parents was also involved in certain things in their lives. So that we had one young man who was actually involved in a violent conflict with his father, and actually had to pull out a gun to protect himself from his father. Up to 3-8 on his dad. Yeah. And so those are some of the realities that young people are dealing with today. That it's hard for a lot of parents out there to understand, that may not understand the realities of of what's going on in the city here in Chicago, but that is a reality. That may be an extreme case,
yes,
but it is a certain reality for some of the young people that we mentor out in St. Charles.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're dealing with is trying to talk to the young people that there are other resources in their communities. There are other people in the community who would like to share resources with them and help them as they begin to build their consciousness in society. And so there are people that, whether it's in churches or whether it's in other places in their schools, that they can turn to as they look for guidance. I think one of the things that young people deal with is who do you turn to for guidance when you need some hard questions to be answered. And if you don't have perhaps it may not be somebody who's a biological parent of yours, but you need somebody to provide you some direction.
Right.
And so unfortunately for some young people, it may not be the root cause of it, but a lot of them may not have the proper guidance to help them get through some difficult times in their lives, and that may be where they get off course.
And let me remind you again, we are talking about the do's and don'ts of parenting. 312-738-1060. You can call in. We also want to remind you that part of what we're trying to do as a non-for-profit organization is to recruit volunteer men, to recruit more volunteer men to come out at St. Charles to mentor with us. We typically have, it seems that we have about somewhere between 80-85% African American boys, and the rest of the 15% probably split between Hispanic and white, but probably easily 90% of them, 92% or so probably are African American or Hispanic males. And we're not saying that these are the only people that we need, but we think it'd be good to have a representation of people from different backgrounds as the boys relate to people who are ethnically, that's not the only identity that they have, obviously, but seeing people like themselves can be very, very supportive to them, especially professional people and people who are not. When I say professional, I don't mean only that you have a degree. Someone who carries themselves in a way that is going to be conducive to the best interests of the young boys as a good example. Do we have another caller? It seems like no. So we want to remind you that, in fact, you can call me 716-603-0992 if you would like to volunteer with us to be able to go up to St. Charles. We usually go there every third Saturday of the month, and we usually spend between an hour and a half. It's a short drive, not a very long drive at all to get there. So we would like you to be able to call in and volunteer with us if you would like to be able to do so. Or give us your thoughts, your thoughts about parenting.